stone is a whole new world. Most heads consider its importance second only to sex. And grass will change your musical habits for the better.
One sunny day I was riding my bike and smoking a joint, cause that's what I like. A policeman stopped me and began to stare, and he said, "Hey sonny, what you smoking there?" I said, "It's a reefer, do you want some, policeman? It's a reefer, do you want a blast? It's a reefer, do you want some, sergeant? Or would you prefer me to shove it up your ass?" Well, he put me in his car and he left my bike, and he took my reefer, which he quite liked. We got to the station and his eyes were all red, and the sergeant said, "Constable, you're out of your head." He said, "Yeah, it's a reefer, do you want some, sergeant? It's a reefer, do you want a blast? It's a reefer, do you want some, sergeant? Or would you prefer me to shove it up your ass?"
Oh, so hashish, a fantastic
But he suspended the constable for his little joke, and he went to the bathroom to have a little toke. When he got back, I'd rolled another 8, and they were being passed round every copper in the place. Well, I sold them 2 ounces and 1/16. And they rolled the biggest joint that the world had ever seen. And they all sang together, "It's a reefer, do you want some heartless? It's a reefer, do you want a blast? It's a reefer, do you want some heartless? Thanks for your company and thanks for the grass."
Your awareness of time and space also becomes confused. Things seem to take an unearthly long time, although much less often things which should have taken a long time seem to zip by in an instant. Zipping takes an instant.
All right, cheers. How we all doing? Happy 420. It's the Breit Rock Discovery Show. As you might have been able to put together by the couple tracks we played in the beginning, we are doing a celebration of 420, kicking out the stoner jams and having a good time doing it. Hope everybody's got something to smoke because we're counting down to 420. This will be nice. And, before we get any further, how you doing, Jake?
I'm good. My bad. Over here, twisting knobs and fixing things.
Yep. So we're chilling out here, jamming out to some sticky stoner jams on this beautiful Saturday afternoon in Pilsen, Illinois. And before we get too much further, like I said, this is going to be a 420 episode, so it's going to be a lot of fun stuff. This was one of those. This was one of those episodes that was a lot of fun putting together. I spent a lot of time digging through the archives, trying to keep it interesting, trying to keep it in our hour-long format. So that kind of eliminated all the 20-minute long, 30-minute long sleep jams, stuff like that. So I had to be a little bit creative and wanted to go a little bit more deep cut, a little bit more... not your everyday stuff. So I think I've got that covered. And of course, we've got our little Chicago connection right at the end. So I was happy to work that in, as we always do. And I think that makes up for the fact that our beer this week is not a Chicago beer, but it is a 420 beer, and that makes it good enough for me. So this is the Sweetwater Brewing out of Atlanta, Georgia. And it is the 420 strain Mango Kush Wheat Ale. This is very good. This is number 2 in their 420 strain series, and it just came out last month. So it's been out just over a month now. If you see it around, be sure to pick some up. This is a great summer drinker. What do you think?
It's pretty tasty. It's pretty tasty.
You know, I think as we have kind of taken the consensus, I think, on the show over the last year and a half, everybody at Mild Sauce, we all like beer. We all like a mixed variety. But I think one thing most of the shows kind of have in common is we're not feeling the IPAs as much as some people. So, you know, you come across the 420 beers, and usually they're the very hopped out IPAs, double IPAs, Imperials, and whatnot. And I had to get a little creative in the beer choice for this week. So this is a wheat. It's a wit mango. It's not too sweet. You know, you could definitely taste the mango in it, but it's not like in your face.
Not overpowering.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's some sweet beers, fruit beers and stuff. You know, I think of some of the Line and Kugels. Not that it's necessarily bad. If it's a hot day, you know, they'll do. But you know, there's some really sweet beers out there. This is not a sweet beer. I could sit on a 6-pack of these like all afternoon long. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, they're an easy sipper. Like you said, the IPAs are nice, but if you have like more than a few, you gotta sit down. You know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't like just sit on a nice fucking sunny afternoon on the back porch.
Yeah,
Just like pounding down on IPAs all day long.
be napping on that back porch real soon.
Right. So yeah, this was a nice change of pace, and I was happy with that. And that brings us to the other tradition on the show. So the shirt. This shirt, we'll get into this band a little bit more next episode because this is D-Mob Happy. They were the opening act for Uncle Ass and the Deadbeats and Graveyard, which played at the Metro a couple weeks ago. And I'm going to be doing a deeper dive on that set next episode. But I really think these guys are a lot of fun. They are out of Newcastle, England. That was another thing that I was finding in my search for tracks for today's episode. You know, I started out and city living. We got a lot of noises going on outside these four walls. But no, I was finding a lot of really cool stuff from all over the world, and I really wanted to kind of focus in a little bit on that. But again, I was running into a little bit of time constraints. You know, I had some really cool stoner rock out of Russia, out of Spain, all over the world. But that stuff kind of was like limiting the variety that I was able to play, so I had to rein it back in. So this week's episode, we've got heavy representation out of England. Obviously, you know, all the basis of stoner rock, doom metal, anything that you'd consider in that genre, obviously comes out of England with Black Sabbath as the progenitor of everything that we know and love and appreciate on this day. So, you know, we've got heavy representation out of England, but we've also got a lot of America and a little bit of Sweden. So we're tracking around
All over the place.
You know, I was talking to Jake before we started, and that was one thing that I was like, you know, I had probably about 3.5 hours worth of music, and I was trying to narrow it down to fit it into our schedule. And I thought to myself, you know, the city is missing out. I could be putting on an epic DJ set somewhere today, but now it's only in my head.
Well, we'll find a way.
And with that, let's dive in. So this track is Maker of Mine. It's off of Holy Doom, and it's from D-Mob Happy. And by the way, they are playing, they're coming back to Chicago. They're playing May 8th at Cobra Lounge, so be sure to check that out.
All right, let's jump into it.
Let's jump in. Cheers. back. Mild Sauce Live, D-Mob Happy, Maker of Mine, off of Holy Doom. And like I said, they are playing May 8th at Cobra Lounge. And, we've done a couple of reviews from sets at the Cobra Lounge in recent episodes. We did the La Armada, Juventud Carasa, Caribbean Chicago Hardcore Showcase. That was at Cobra. And then also the Death of Self record release show. So great room. That'll be a good show. I'm going to definitely try and hit that set. And moving on, like I said, this was they were out of Newcastle, England. We started out, we were kind of England heavy for the first 3 tracks with Electric Wizard. I believe they're out of London, and also the Orb. And then now we're back. So up next, this was one of those ones where it was a little bit of a deeper cut. I don't think many people are playing or talking about Giant Squid on this 420, but they're missing out. They should be. So we're gonna check out. This is gonna be a Figura Serpentata off of Cenotes, and like I said, they're out of San Diego. Dig this band. It's a nice, nice little slowdown from the little bit more jammy stuff that we had towards the top with D-Mob Happy, and of course the Reefer song. So why don't we dip right in with a little Giant Squid, and then we're gonna take it back to England for some little old school stoner jam after that. So we'll jump into that and see how that goes.
That's it.
right, we're back. Mild Sauce Live. You know, it's kind of hot on this sticky, icky 420. Jamming out to Giant Squid, followed up by Hawkwind with Forge of Vulcan, and that was off of Quark Strangeness and Charm, and that's in a little bit of their the later period of what a lot of people consider to be like their highlight of their career, and very cool stuff. And you know, as we've been listening and tracking through, and like I said, like there was so much stuff I could have played this afternoon. So you got to give shout outs, you know, of course to Black Sabbath, the creators of all of this. And then you could see just like musically, and this is what I love about music and that journey that, you know, if you're passionate about the genre and if you're passionate about, you know, music, you know, this is the stuff that I really dig. Like, you know, it starts with Sabbath, and then, you know, we're listening to D-Mob Happy, which plays a little bit off of the more eclectic party vibe. You know, you've got Electric Wizard with the more angry stuff, a little bit more brooding, a little bit more spiritual. But then, like, you know, you look at like bands like Hawkwind, who were just as heavily influenced by Black Sabbath, but they bring into the space element that you know also connects in with, you know, Pink Floyd and the very psychedelic movements that were going on at that time, but also inspires bands like The Orb, which kind of like interconnects all of it in the most tangential of fashions. But I think it's a lot of fun, you know what I mean? Like watching the threads of influence, but you know, a lot of cool stuff. And with all of that, you know, I was trying to go a little bit more deep cuts. So, you know, obviously I wasn't playing Sleep or, you know, Pentagram or Yob. You know, we played actually some Trouble and stuff like that in previous episodes, and I always try and keep it a little bit differentiated, so I wanted to branch out a little bit. But, you know, when we were listening to Giant Squid, you know, that gives me vibes similar to like You're the Cobra out of the Pacific Northwest. You know, shout out to them, and Sub Rosa out of I believe Salt Lake City. So very cool stuff in that more gothic, I think, stylistic. And you know, it was definitely something where I was treading the fine line between like stoner and doom when I was picking the track listings. And whereas I think Giant Squid kind of plays on that edge a little more in the doom realm, I wanted to keep things more upbeat for the remainder of the show. So moving out of that and getting into a little bit more energetic stonery vibes, we've got Atlas with Two Wolves, and this is a real fun one. I'm trying to think, where was that? I think they're out of the Louisiana. Very cool stuff. You know, that was another thing, like, speaking of influence and how music kind of, you know, evolves and grows in that big tree of connections, you know, there was a very strong Bayou contingent, I guess, in this genre. You know, of course we think of bands like Mastodon as like the standard bearers of Southern fried metal in the 21st century. But you've also got stuff like Kylesa or Baroness, which just played Chicago, or, you know, Pallbearer. So there's definitely strong roots for the genre in the Southeast and the Northwest, which I find kind of interesting.
Yeah. Shout out Louisiana.
But yeah.
Should we jump into Two Wolves?
Yeah, man, we've been talking a little bit, so why don't we just dive in? So we'll jump in with Atlas, Two Wolves off of the self-titled Atlas release. Very cool stuff. Hope you enjoy it.
Let's do it.
Woman's got its other
The FBI claims that a huge shipment of grass, which they are calling killer dope, has been smuggled into New York City. The Bureau urges users not to smoke the weed, which is greenish-brown in color, not particularly seedy, and contains mostly cannabis buds. Warning symptoms are a mild euphoria, a slight rise in the pulse rate, some hallucination, and death by laughter within 15 minutes of ingestion. In an effort to aid the FBI in its investigation, Weekend Update is undertaking its own analysis of marijuana sent to us anonymously by any viewers who may be worried. Simply place a small sample of the suspected cannabis in an envelope and send it immediately to Chevy Chase, Apartment 12, 827 West 81st Street, New York City, 10053.
All right, we're back. Mild Sauce Live. You know it's kind of hot. 420, jamming out, stoner rocking it out. That was Dr. Smoke, straight out of Ohio with the Willow. Before that, we had Atlas with Two Wolves. Good stuff. And like I said, getting a little bit more into that, I guess, Queens of the Stone Age, Jack White, Wolf Mother style vibe. You know, we've talked about Queens and we've talked about Wolf Mother on previous episodes. You know, all in that wheelhouse. And like I said, you know, it was interesting when I was putting the playlist together for the episode. You know, avoiding the whole desert rock, Caius, Queens of the Stone Age, I believe Unsound, is that another one of those desert rock bands? You know, that whole vibe.
I don't know, Steve. That's your job.
And trying to keep it a little bit more diverse, but you know, definitely love that, and that all falls into the beauty of stoner rock and 420.
Definitely.
Now, now I know this isn't, you know, we're thinking, I think musically 420 on a little bit different levels. What's your ultimate 420 song, Jake?
I don't know. You can't just ask me that. You should have asked me beforehand. I could have had an answer for you. I don't know off the top of my head. The best 420 song. It's probably something by 3 6 Mafia.
All right. Which one?
Bin Laden weed, maybe? I'll just throw that out there just for the hell of it. Just because I like that song.
Nice. Yeah, you know, I was chuckling because as I was coming down here, the radio was talking about, you know, this is becoming one of those marketers' dream days.
Right.
And they were saying that, like, in Colorado and in Washington, if they're giving like $4.20 off your Uber rides today.
That's super whack.
I know.
But all right.
But imagine what's going on in Canada right now.
Right? Not that.
Right? But yeah, you know, and I was reading something about like Windsor was doing some big fucking thing today for 420th. So right across the border was from, what is that, Detroit?
Yeah, I think so.
See, I've never done the Windsor thing. I've been out and about in Canada, but never
the Windsor thing.
Never there.
Like a sex position. Or something. Never done the Windsor thing.
Well, I've heard a lot of stories about, like, you know, people hanging out in Detroit. You can just bop right over into Windsor.
Do the Windsor thing.
Yeah, do the Windsor thing. Come home.
My bad.
Never had the pleasure. But
Let's listen to some more music.
all right, cool. So, you know, this is one of those ones, again, a little bit more deep cut, but you know, I there was no situation where I was putting an episode together that did not include Goblin Cock. So that's
Say that one more time.
Yeah, Goblin Cock.
No, you couldn't help putting a.
It had to be in. I had to.
You had to get the Goblin Cock in. All right.
Had to get Goblin Cock in today. So
Jesus Christ.
this is Locke off
All right,
of
that's where we're at.
Come With Me If You Want to Live, and this is I believe out of San Diego. So very good stuff. Actually, you know, if you look past the silly name, it is actually a straight up like killer fucking track. So that's the real reason. But then with the name, I was like, I gotta.
All right, let's dive into a little Goblin Cock here on Metal Sauce Radio.
There's your little promo teaser right there.
Choose your
around 4:20. You know, it's a little after right now, so hope everybody was prepared. But no, we were just jamming out to Royal Thunder with Mouth of Fire off of their debut. Very fucking cool stuff. And, you know, I think as I've been kind of bouncing back to the entire episode, this is fun, trying to keep it into that more stonery vibe, keeping it into the more jammy stuff. And I think, you know, next week we're going to get into a little bit more doomy stuff. Similar theme, but like I said, next episode we're going to do a live show review of Graveyard, Uncle Acid, and D-Mob Happy. And look at this, we got a special guest. All right. Unexpected. There you go. This is the fun of live podcasting.
Raw and uncut.
We're just gonna roll with it. So yeah,
I was trying to get a cameo. You know, she hasn't been on the camera in a while.
You know, I think now that the studio location is gonna be changing pretty soon, she had to get her glamour shot in before we moved.
That was it. She got it.
Mm-hmm.
She took her chance.
But yeah, like I said, I think kept it a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more psychedelic, a little bit more fun this week. I think next week, like I said, it was an excellent show. We're gonna jam out to Uncle Acid and Graveyard and revisit, talk about D-Mob Happy a little bit more. Next up, though, like I said, I was trying to keep it a little bit more deep cut, but you can only do that so often or so long, as you saw at the top of the episode with Electric Wizard Classic. Now we're going to dip into a little bit of Orange Goblin with Scorpionica off of the Big Black, and I think this is their, to me, their seminal stoner rock, you know, opus. You know, very cool stuff. I think, you know, just super fun band. So let's just dive right in.
All right, let's do it.
Here we go. Orange Goblin.
Today
All right, we're back. Steve Breit Rock Discovery Show 420. Stoners. But this wraps up my portion of Mild Sauce Live Saturday. So before we get out of here, shout outs, of course, to super producer extraordinaire Jake. And then, of course, DJ Police State, Mars. And then we've got Backcourt with Ryan and Tennell. We got 3-piece, of course. So shout outs to everybody. And then I'm definitely down. And, this works out at least fortuitously for my show because if I'm not mistaken, next week's episode is so kind of an anniversary, kind of a milestone. Yeah, I've been pretty consistent. I think there's a week here or two that I've been missing, but yeah, we've been. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So with that, as always, cheers to everybody. Cheers to the bands. Cheers to 420. Cheers to Sweetwater for this nice little buzz I got right now. And as I try and do, this is my Chicago connection for this week's episode. So we're gonna go out with Probot, the much not talked about side project from Dave Grohl. Everybody knows and loves the Foo Fighters. Everybody knows and loves Nirvana. But this is a great little one-off thing that he did several years ago. Basically, wrote and composed a whole bunch of songs in the spirit and in the style of these kind of classic, epic lead singers from different genres that influenced him throughout his life. And he shopped those around, and then he managed to recruit these people to provide vocals. So there's a lot of good stuff. Everybody from Kurt Brecht, lead singer of DRI, he does a track. I think Lemmy from Motorhead, R.I.P. He does a track, and of course the track we're gonna hear today is "My Tortured Soul," which he recorded with Eric Wagner, the lead singer of the classic Chicago stoner doom band Trouble. So we've played them in past episodes.
So I realized my mic was turned down before when I was talking. And no one heard anything I said. My bad. It's been a long show. We will have a group end of the current studio. We migrated once. We'll migrate again.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be trying to get of everyone's shows. It'll be episode 50, like Steve was saying. For Steve, it'll be like a nice close to the chapter we've had here.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get back in tune once we get to the new place. But yeah, keep an eye out for that. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll have a good vibe in the crib.
Looking forward to that one.
And yeah, sorry, my mic was turned down earlier.
No, all good.
Let's jump into this last one, man.
Yeah, so let's just go out. And like I said, you get the double Dave Grohl connection because if I'm not mistaken.
Dave Grohl, that sounds like a drink at like Hard Rock Cafe.
Everybody associates him with Seattle, Washington, the West Coast, and rightfully so. But, he had family in Chicago, up in the northwest suburbs. So if I'm not mistaken, if you look at interviews that he does, he always gives shout-outs to, like, Trax Records and some cool stuff, Naked Ray Gun. And he always...
Wax Trax, who just had the documentary that came out just recently.
Industrial Accident.
Yeah, that screened over at the Vans warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool stuff. And like I said, that influence, went all the way out to Dave Grohl when he was a kid. So, he's given shout-outs and much love to Wax Trax over the course of the years. And so, yeah, we got Dave Grohl and Eric Wagner from Trouble with My Tortured Soul. And we'll see you again next weekend where we're going to do episode 50 and have some fun. Cheers.
See See ya.
Sophisticated abuse